Hello, everybody. Happy Pride Month. I'm Nicholas Snow. This is PromoHomo.TV, and this is a special episode of one of what I think is a very important series on PromoHomo.TV, Life Positive, which is spotlighting people living with, impacted by, and or working to bring about the end of HIV and AIDS. And my guest today, Alina Oswald, and our paths converged about 10 years ago because Alina reviewed my Living Powerfully with HIV memoir, Life Positive, A Journey to the Center of My Heart, which ultimately went on to inspire this series on PromoHomo.TV. PromoHomo.TV did not exist 10 years ago, also called Life Positive. And Alina is a cis, straight woman, and she is an ally, and how she got into being an ally is really, really fascinating. And I'm going to have her on the show live. She's already in the green room, and we're going to have a really fun conversation, and you will find it to be very inspiring. As many of you know, my show is supported in part by the PromoHomo.TV superstars. They're people who subscribe to this network for as little as $1 a month. You can join them there at patreon.com/PromoHomo.TV. And I want to give a very special shout out to my most recent patrons, Lawrence and Leon Accord, actually Lawrence Whiting and his husband Leon Accord, John Linder, and Kelly Marie Marino is back on board. She was previously a supporter, and she's back on board. So I really encourage you to subscribe, and I encourage you to stay tuned because Alina is so inspiring. I haven't met her in person, but I feel like I know her, and really to know her is to love her, I'm sure. So I'll be back with Alina right after this. PromoHomo.TV is all about empowering you, our communities, and our world. For their support of PromoHomo.TV, I wish to thank my sponsors, DAP Health. I've been a grateful client of DAP Health for more than a decade. One of their value statements, we welcome all people, period. Nothing like the city we're at. It's tired of the running. Willie's Modern Fare, 1501 Uptown Gastropub, and 849 Restaurant and Lounge. 3 restaurants, unlimited flavors. Shouting out to my media partners, Pink Media, amplifying PromoHomo.TV across the Twitterverse with their hashtag I Love Gay campaign. David Perry and Associates, a PR and marketing firm. GayDesertGuide.lgbt, and KGay 1065 Palm Springs, available worldwide. Ask your smart speaker to play KGAY. And last but not least, the PromoHomo.TV superstars who voluntarily subscribe to the free content at PromoHomo.TV for as little as $1 a month. Join them at patreon.com/PromoHomo.TV. Meet many of them at PromoHomo.TV/superstars. Now here's how you can step up to the plate. To find out how you can help me empower you, our communities, and our world, visit PromoHomo.TV/empower. Thank you. My guest today, Alina Oswald, is a writer and photographer based in the New York City area. She's the arts editor of Out in Jersey magazine and a member of the Undetectable Flash Collective. I really want to know more about that. For the past 20 years, she has covered stories about the LGBTQ plus community and HIV and AIDS. And as I mentioned, our paths crossed when she reviewed my Living Powerfully with HIV memoir, Life Positive, A Journey to the Center of My Heart, for A&U, America's AIDS magazine. And I promised her then I would have her on my then audio podcast, and it took me 10 years, but let's welcome to the show Alina Oswald. Hi, Alina.
Thank you very much for having me, and happy Pride.
Yes, happy Pride. And so 10 years later, here we are.
10 years later, here we are. Yes, I'm so glad I got to read your book and, know you through your book first. And now, today like this. So, yes, I really appreciate it. Absolutely.
Well, it's my pleasure. A little bit before we started the show, I'm going to give a shout out to these creators because I've learned some things about you that are going to inform my questioning. But I'm referring to the video that you did for the I'm from Driftwood channel on YouTube. It
Yes.
was from the LGBTQ Story Archive, and that
Mhm.
video was produced by Nathan Mansky and Damien Mittelfeld. And I think it's important to attribute them for that great work. And their channel, by the way, has 125,000 subscribers, so good on them. But and I just love the headline they gave that video in their work, how a straight cis ally became a leading writer on HIV/AIDS and LGBTQ plus issues.
Oh my gosh.
The part of it has to do with your mom taking you to a medical conference because she wanted you to be a doctor.
Mhm.
Lance Druckerman is watching live. He's an associate producer of the show. He says happy Pride right back to you. So that conference happened. It was about HIV and AIDS. Your mom is a physician, and she was secretly trying to get you to become a doctor.
Yep.
And then the Chernobyl disaster started.
Hmm.
That distracted you.
Hmm.
And then you ended up moving to the United States. So, where did you grow up? And what inspired your move to the United States?
Okay, so I grew up in Romania, vampire girl. So my parents, are doctors, but my dad is retired, and mom was an infectious disease doctor, and she really, really wanted me to go to medical school, and I didn't in the end. But yes, in an effort to get me to fall in love, at least with the medical school, with the university, which is, by the way, very beautiful, a wonderful, the architecture and walking through those hallways is something completely phenomenal. It was for me at that age. She, in, but she had to go to this training, like many physicians do, about, I believe it was something about African tropical infectious diseases. It was one of those long names. And it was like 2 week long conference type of thing. Uh, During April of 1986. Well, I'm dating myself, but what can I do? And I was on spring break, and mom said, why don't you spend some time, with me, and we will be, and then I'll take you one day with me to the conference. I was like, I didn't know what to do, what to say. Like, fine. I wanted to spend time with mom because I love her very much, and we had a very close relationship. And I said, sure. And it just turned out, my luck, I think, right, that day it was about, the conference was about HIV and AIDS. Now, April 1986, Rock Hudson had just passed, right? In Romania at that time, we were still, on the wrong side of the wall, so to speak. And I remember now, I mean, it kind of came back to me, that that's when, it was the first time when I heard the word gay. LGBTQ plus, I don't think it existed at that
It
time.
did not.
And
We did, but the acronym didn't.
yeah, well, HIV and AIDS, again, another thing that, SIDA, French, right? Again,
And Spanish, by the way. See that?
SIDA, yeah, and French, Spanish, yeah. And, I had never heard of the word. It wasn't even a matter that it was a good or bad word. It just, you just had no idea that thing existed. And on the other hand, now we were under, a dictatorship regime. You were not allowed to say certain things because, you're, or worse. Um,
You'd be
and
arrested or jailed or
yeah,
murdered,
you and your,
disappeared.
exactly, you, friends, everybody else that you knew. So I didn't, you're born in such a regime, and you kind of learn from an early age, or I did. You realize that it's better not to say anything. And I'm sorry, I go back and forth a little bit, but it was always with me was like I don't know. I didn't know a thing. When I wasn't sure about something, I just did not know. Period. At least, it was safer that way. They could say, but she doesn't know anything. Whatever, fine, but at least you couldn't blame me or I couldn't get in
They
trouble.
say they say ignorance is bliss.
So when mom, now I realize that when mom invited me to go with her to that conference, um, it was an unspoken deal between my mom and me that I was not to utter a word about, not to say that we're gay, not to say that we're homosexual. At the, it was a come right. HIV, AIDS, nothing of that sort. Whatever was to be discussed you know, during that conference, it was for scientists only, medical professionals only, and that was that. And now I think I just now I think it came to me. I never thought of it really, but recently, and I didn't. But anyway, so I went with mom. I didn't know anything. I didn't want to go to medical school. It was fascinating in that place, So the dean of the university had just gotten back from Paris, and Rock Hudson had been in Paris. The whole story, we know it, right? And he started to talk about, peer-to-peer conference. I didn't get a thing. All I understood, I like the slideshows with the, um, renderings, artistic renderings of the virus in the bloodstream, bright, orange and bright red, and somehow I like those very much. And I came out of that and I thought, all these experts. So is this very tiny virus? And all these experts, and they don't know anything about it. That was my conclusion after the whole thing. Which, I mean, again, I was young. I mean,
You were a teenager.
I was a teenager, so I wasn't really, yeah. I think the whole experience was more important, was more like a wow effect to me than what was being discussed during that conference.
So
And
you were exposed to a lot of this information at an age when most of the people in the world were ignorant to it. You were around sort of thought leaders around the issue at the time. And tell me how you came across the magazine with Rock Hudson in it.
well, so long story short, so then it was that, and then I remember mom wanted to say, "Oh, let's find the dissection labs," and I was like, "No, let's not. Let's get out of here. I don't want to." I didn't want to have anything to do with that. Thank God they had changed them, moved them around, because it had been a few decades since mom, were a student. So I like forget about it. Just let's get out. So and shortly after this, so I went back home. And mom came afterwards, and then Chernobyl happened, and then kind of everything was put on the back burner.
Forgive my geographic ignorance, but how far away is Romania from Chernobyl?
It's pretty close. So it's Romania, and then it's Moldova, and we have border with Ukraine in the southeast. And I don't know, a few hour drive. I don't know, but it's it wasn't. We were pretty
You were
close.
all freaked out,
Yeah, and the
rightfully so.
people in the northeastern side of the country, the ones who were in remission with cancer, they had to go back into the hospital, especially the young, kids, and the young and the elderly. Um,
Right.
and it was this. They were giving us all sorts of information that didn't make any sense. Some of it did, some of it didn't. It, you know,
And was it after this had died down a little bit that you came across the magazine?
yes. And then I came up, I don't know exactly how I came across that magazine. It was a Paris Match magazine, Paris Match, I think you call it here. And at that point, I was fluent in French. I used to be fluent in French at some point in my life. And it was very hard to find these Western magazines, again, because you're not allowed to have them. But I don't know how I found it actually. Maybe somebody gave it to me. Maybe it was also related to the whole, ACE conference and Rock Hudson, news and stories. Somehow, some of them I have kind of seeped through. I'm just assuming. I don't know. But I got my hands on that magazine, and it was Rock Hudson on the cover, and I opened it to a two-page spread of the young, gorgeous-looking black and white we know picture of Rock Hudson, and this guy that was, to me, again, I'm saying through my teenage eyes, right? He looked like 90-something years old. You really had to look at him, to his eyes, right, to realize that, wow, that's the same person. And I read the whole thing, and then it was, because of the Chernobyl, because of that, it was important, but it wasn't, kind of, you acknowledge it and then you move on. And I had to go to college, and there are other things going on.
So I want to move ahead. I wanted to jump ahead in your life. So tell me how you ended up in the United States to live. The short version. The short version.
Sure. So I was invited to come here, and I came here in 91. And I was still in college at the time. So I finished college here, and I moved around the country. And in 2003, I was living in Cambridge, in the Boston area. And in 2002, I think, or 2003, I was in Harvard Square, coming back from an interview, actually. And I saw Dolly Parton on the cover of a magazine in the newsstand. I'm like, Dolly Parton, what the heck is she doing there? And I saw in huge letters there, AU. Oh, what's that? And I kind of, it's like, I'm nearsighted. I've been nearsighted my whole life. Like, America's AIDS magazine, and the word AIDS kind of hit me. And I always explain it as pieces of the universe coming together to tell me something, and then I thought, well, I have to, and I was talking to the guys, like, I want that magazine over there. So which one? That one with Dolly Parton. What else? So we had this come back and forth for a few minutes there. Oh, because he kept looking. Oh no, there are magazines over here, in the front. I don't know, I want that one over there. So so finally I got it. I went home and I opened it. I knew about the masthead. I didn't know much about freelancing or whatever. So then I thought, I have to write for these guys. And then that's how it happened.
You reached out to them and you pitched them, and did they say yes right away?
Nope.
All right. So how many times did you pitch to them? How much later? Tell me about how you landed your first paid assignment for them.
Well, so I pitched a novel by Christopher Rice, because I had no clue, basically. And the managing editor, he said, but I thought he would never get back to me, forget about it. And he got back to me, like, wow. And he said, no, that's older book. We need newer books. I'm like, okay, newer books, good. At least I knew something. Because I thought, what to pitch first? I had to pitch a book review, because I did that short. I can do that, right? So, and then I found Signals, a book by Joel Rothschild, which is on the West Coast, by the way, award-winning author, I think. And that was an older book too. I'm like, oh God, what do I do now? So I looked at his website and I saw that he had a brand new book out. It was called Hope, A Story of Triumph. I'm like, yay, I have it. So I pitched that. And then he said, well, the managing editor, Kale Needle, he said, well, why don't you write a story? Oh, God, write a story. Instead, I was just pitching it like a, you know, half-page review. Now you give me a whole. But I was excited about it, but it's like, oh gosh, what do I do now? So at a time we're actually moving. Tell you my life story here. So we're moving from Boston to from Massachusetts to Jersey.
You and your husband.
Yes, and it so happened that my husband had to go to our training. It's all about training, right? And conferences to California. And I'm like, fine, I go with you. So you go to your thing and I go interview Joe. So yeah.
Well, that's a beautiful story. And then so you still write for them today.
Well, I write for no, I don't write for ANU doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, I didn't know that. When did they end?
Well, I was a contributing writer, and then in 2014, thanks to Kale, I became arts editor. And then last year, I was for a very short time managing editor. And then they kind of, that I think September of last year was the last issue.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Um, I'm sad to know that. Well, you reviewed my book, and then you gave me permission to put it at the front of my book, which I went in and did. So,
Thank you.
your whole review is at the beginning of the book. People start out by reading. Well, after the dedications and the chapters, there's the review, and the first paragraph you write. Sometimes it is as much about the destination as it is about the journey, especially when the experience as a whole enables a process of rediscovery of self and a re-evaluation of life. And that sentence sort of applies to the story you just told me about yourself.
Okay.
And I think it's fascinating the way that you had an open mind and an open heart and a curiosity and fundamentally a desire to make a difference, because decades later, not only have you done all of this powerful writing, but you are the arts editor for Out in Jersey. How did that come about?
Well, thanks to my husband, said the truth. And so we were living in Jersey, but we were just kind of trying to figure out the neighborhood. And we have, during the summer, there are a lot of, parades and festivities, and, we'll celebrate something. And it happened to be Jersey City Pride in 2006. So, of course, I had to go check it out, of course. So we walk around, and my husband said, "Oh, look there, over there, check those guys over there." So I looked, I'm like, "Oh my God, out in Jersey, magazine." So, I think he had seen some rainbow flags, and yeah, and also the magazines. And he knew that, I was looking for magazines. I was looking for, to write, to photograph for, LGBTQ plus publications to just cover related stories and the like. So I went there. I kind of check out the magazine. So yeah, the first story that I wrote for Out in Jersey was about the AIDS Museum, which opened in Newark, New Jersey area at City Hall University. And my friend and mentor, Kurt Weston, who is an award-winning legally blind photographer, also in California, he had worked there. And I had just finished writing a biography about Kurt. So I think he knew about the museum, and he put me in touch with the director of the museum. So yeah, sure, I went there, check it out. I took some pictures, and I wrote the piece. So I've been without New Jersey ever since.
Well, I love that. Now, tell me about the Undetectable Flash Collective.
Oh yes, well,
Yes, I love that. I love that.
well, I think I had been aware of Silence Equals Death poster for a while, but you kind of you know about it, but you don't know about it, and then I saw a call for artists. I don't know where it was, obviously online somewhere. They were looking for artists to create artwork, HIV and AIDS related artwork, as
This
part
is
of a
through the
collection.
New York Public Library.
Yes, but it was some. It might have been on Facebook. I really don't know where it was. It was online. So I was like, they will never accept me. You had to apply, submit stuff, and apply for it. I'm like, forget about that. But I say, hey, nothing to lose. I'm gonna go ahead and submit because why not? So um, actually, I interviewed a visual artist, Nancy Lemoynes. I think she's also on the West Coast, who said something like, if silence equals death, let's make some noise. And she's let's make some noise kind of artist, beautiful artwork. And said, I think that's how the connection between silence equals death and let's submit to this undetectable flash collective. So yeah, it was quite intense. It was quite interesting. I got to meet the amazing Avram Finkelstein. He's so inspiring in any and every single way that I can think of. And the poster spoke to me, um, and touched me at in so many ways. It's so dark, but it's a call for action. It's a call for hope. I don't know if it's hope so much as it's let's do something about it type of message. And yeah, it was quite interesting to be part of the collective. We worked during the weekends. We would meet at the library, and we would put together. We were thinking, okay, what do we do? What do we do? So we ended up. It was at 2014 at a time when Undetectable was kind of new, I think.
Well, yeah, that was a long time before we knew that undetectable equals untransmittable. So it's just amazing the different moments that you have shared with the HIV, the fight against HIV and AIDS
Yeah.
across the decades. I want to show off your website, alinaoswald.com, because we won't be able to dive into it much in this episode, but you've done an amazing amount of photography,
Hmm.
but you also have a significant amount of published work as well. And I'm just going to show off your photography page. So there's just so much there to delight in. Since it is Pride Month, I'm going into your Pride Month archive.
Okay.
That's gorgeous, and I mean all of these photos are just so gorgeous. And there's Laverne Cox in there, and the parade, and uh, so much amazing work. So speak for a little bit about your
Sure.
personal photography and some of your publishing.
So I was writing, and then I think it came about. I was working on a few articles. You do the research and all that, and say, "Oh no, no, we cannot do it because we don't have the pictures." And I thought, okay, if I learn enough about photography to take some decent shots, then, I would be able to actually go through and, publish the article with the pictures. In the same time, I was just finishing the book about Kurt Weston, and he really inspired my, mm, ignited my love for photography, in particular black and white photography, the dark one, intense one. And I went and took some classes actually at B&H and other places, and yeah, I started to take pictures. These are always with a bad hair day, right? This was at the World Pride in 2019. I was working with visual aids, and Avram Finkelstein designed this broadsheet, and we were to distribute copies of it during the Pride March. So yeah, I was, some guys from visual aids were taking pictures, so that's how I ended up in front of the camera.
Well, and so you deserve to be in front of the camera, and then you have HIV and AIDS inspired
Hmm.
photography as well.
Hmm.
Well, you've done such brilliant work, and I'm just so grateful we have had this time to talk to each other. I guess I would like to, rather than telling the story of your life for a few moments, I'd just like to get into your thoughts and feelings about how are you feeling right now about living in a country where there's so much hate that is rearing its ugly head. As an ally of the LGBTQ plus community, you must feel the pain that we're feeling.
Hmm.
How are you feeling at this time in history?
Oh, that's a tough question and a good question. I think it was because of the time that we're living in, that the whole memory of, don't mention the word gay, don't mention the word HIV and or AIDS outside certain circles. Uh, that kind of, because I never thought of it until now, to tell you the truth. That part of it. It was always, how I got into, writing about HIV and AIDS. But now, because of, recent events, let's put them that way, the memories come back some, I think. And I, if you're a kid that's living on the other side of the wall, and you're told that what's in the West is, is bad and all that stuff, but of course everybody yearns to see it for themselves. And that was coming to America was my dream, my whole life, right? I feel, and America for me, it was and still is, because I'm in the New York City area. You know, a symbol of hope. Talking rainbows and pride, and I'm not stereotyping. You know what I mean? But it's still, a rainbow is hope, right? And um, yeah, I think we need to be careful. I think a lot of people don't know or have no idea, because they never lived in another world but in a free world. Um, they cannot imagine what the opposites of living in a free world could be. Um, you know what
But
I
you know what it's like to live in the opposite of a free
mean?
world.
Yeah, and whoever says that, oh yeah, freedom of speech is not important, well, it kind of is. I'm with the express yourself type of, folks. It is important, because you cannot. I was writing about, living in a closet you're living in a closet, in a huge closet of mind, body, soul, and it gets really, really, really dark. And it doesn't get dark right away. It gets like shadows first. Okay, you can live with shadows. You can live with a little bit less light. But then it's kind of, before you know it, it's like pitch dark, and it's you really don't want to be there, because you learn how to live with it, but do you really want to? Once we got to give them hope, right? Once you have that hope and you taste it, you really don't want not to have it. So I think it's much more to say about it, but yeah, we find ourselves at the crossroads, as the statement in the
How
Undetectable.
many times are we going to be at these effing crossroads? I'm telling you, Alina. I want to ask you two more questions. The
Sure.
first is open ended. Is there anything that you would like to put into this conversation that we haven't talked about yet?
Related to any.
Anything?
um well, that's a lot to talk about. Thank you for offering me this opportunity. I think we should work together more. I think at common denominator, we're all the same. We're all human beings. Um, One note here. Everybody's asking me why I'm so drawn to LGBTQ plus stories, HIV and AIDS stories. And the truth is that I'm drawn to them. I connect to them. I connect with the community. I've been, you know, LGBTQ plus individuals. They trusted me with their stories, and I am grateful for that. So I find so many common points, common stories, like, say, the closet, right? Hopefully we don't go back into the closet, because that's not a good place to be, right? But you might have your closet, I might have my closet, but the idea of being in the closet is kind of similar. So here's the common.
Yeah, everyone withholds their truth for one reason or another, because of oppression, because of
Yeah.
racism, classism, all sorts of inequities that exist in our country.
Yeah, so I think if we really stop the madness, if we could, and just talk to one another, I think we would find out that we have many more things in common than we don't. And I'm not saying everybody, but I'm saying, like, everybody's like, why are you doing this? Because I feel more comfortable with them than with you. I want to say, of course, I don't really say, but seriously, I mean, and I am grateful for that. But I really think that if we really talk about it, and not talk about it and then backstab someone else, not like this, really just be honest, and we will find out that we're not that much different, really. We all want to live in peace and quiet. We want to live our lives. We want to do the best we can. I mean, really, what's right?
Right. So my final question, in your decades of covering the HIV/AIDS epidemic, that's the context in which I want you to answer the question. Just to share something personal, I'm just very saddened by how much stigma against people living with HIV and AIDS is still very much a part of the daily experience of those of us who choose to disclose. And I guess I'm wondering, what have you learned about stigma, and
Mhm.
what can you say to give us hope about ending it?
That's such a complex question. Thank you for it. Um, so, I've been, as you well know, I've been covering HIV and AIDS for 20 years. And over the course of these years, I've been kind of like dying, and it's like imminent. And then even in 2003, it was better, but it was. And then, there's the heart medications. Then we have hope. Then so we have all these layers, right? Now we are undetectable, and and I think this stigma kind of evolved with the epidemic, in a way, and I think people should. I go back to the other question, the previous question, and the previous answer. The more we talk to each other, to one another, and we really try to put ourselves in the other person's shoes, right? The more we understand that HIV and AIDS, it's not something that can happen only to some people, or nowadays, the communities most affected are completely different than what they used to be during the 80s, right? So, and another thing is, just because it's not a death sentence, it doesn't mean that you want to have it. Does it make sense? You don't really. I mean, you want to protect yourself, I should say. You know what I mean? And I think the stigma, that is a tough thing to solve. I don't think it will ever go away, because it will always be something else. I wonder sometimes, whenever we'll go to zero, right? The journey to zero, zero cases. Maybe that's when stigma will kind of disappear. But I don't think it will completely disappear, because somehow someone will always be connected with someone, that has something to do.
Well, and one of the things you and I know and have learned and have experienced firsthand and live by is the importance of not only telling our own truth, but giving other people the opportunity to do the same, because silence does equal death and action does equal life. And I'm so grateful that our lives came together the way they did, and I'm so honored that we got to have this conversation.
Same here. Thank you so very much. That was wonderful. Thank you.
Yes. Well, clearly in a few months you can come back on, because we have a lot to talk about. For sure. We have a lot to talk about. I just want to remind my viewers that you don't have to miss out on an episode if you subscribe at youtube.com/PromoHomo.TV network. And you can voluntarily become a patron for as little as $1 a month at PromoHomo.TV. And for more about Alina and the great work she's doing, go to alinaoswald.com and outinjersey.net. That's all fantastic that you keep doing what you're doing. And, the world is a better place for it.
Thank you so much. I hope to be able to do it for many, many, many more years and decades, hopefully.
Well, stay where you are, Alina. I'll speak with you after the show, which ends in a couple minutes. And for those of you who have been watching live, thank you. I hope you're inspired to share this with your friends and family across social media. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
In a safe place, I got room to breathe. Been a long chase, but at last I'm free. These open woods, I knew I could find peace here. Nothing like the city where I got tired of the running, the catching up. I got hungry for the stunning high mountain tops. Some plans, some dreams to catch, to promised lands, to find my path, see the planet from greater heights. I have found a place get the rushing, heaven only knows. I'm all alone, still lying far from lonely, on a journey